it's Rebecca, also known as 4Kids at 147, and I'm just bringing you now a quick box it up video for my January Like Forever kit. I've done this with all of my others. Some people like it, so I figured we'd keep it in. But this is a really useful box. You can find these all over the place in the UK. Can't find the Iris containers, but can find the really useful boxes. And I got this one from the range. It cost £9.99 and it did come with a tray. So it comes with a tray inside and then of course the lid. And this is what I use to hold the kit that I'm currently working on. So first off, I tend to put in both the cardstock that came with the kit, of which there's those 3 colours, but I've also popped in some white. So when I go to my friends, I tend to grab this, and then I tend to just pop my tools and my photos into a bag and off I go. So we've got that. Then we have the papers. So we've got all the papers from One Canoe 2, and I have already chopped off the branding strips from those. I tend to find that I ignore the branding strips or forget about them, and because I tend to use a kit to the point that I will use up the papers, I don't feel like the branding strips need to be there, so I tend to cut those off and have done right at the beginning so that I can try and incorporate them into the layout. And then we do have the sketch inspiration for January as well, which I'm going to pop in there. And then another straight off that I know is going to go in the bottom is the thickers, just because of the size. So once I've done that, I'm going to move that to the side for a moment and concentrate mainly on my sort of embellishment tray. So those border strips that I cut off, I tend to just pop into here to remind myself that I have them and therefore they might be useful. I do try to keep them the right way up, though it doesn't always work. And then I tend to pop in the kit bits first. So I do have the Amy Tangerine overlays, which I have just pulled out of the packaging. I understand that they may get marks on them and stuff, but the packaging is awful. Then we have the One Canoe 2 die cut pieces. Now I have popped these into my ephemera packaging before I put the kits to one side, but for the purposes of actually using this kit, I like to put them in this long section so that I can rummage around in them, and then I'll just pop the packaging probably right at the bottom of my kit box, and if I do end up with some left, they can go back in there. And then lastly, I just have the puffy stickers, which will go in there, and then I have the enamel shapes, which again sort of tend to sit into there. So that tends to be where all my kit bits go, and then I've got the bits that I've added in from my stash. So firstly, to pull in, I've pulled in quite a few bits from my embellishment boxes this time, so I might see if I can sort of break them up according to what they are. So I have a couple of bits that are vellum-y acetate. I have some twine, and I have quite a few bits of enamel dots. So they're sort of more clearer things. Enamel-y shapes. Let's maybe pop those all together. And then I have these die cut bits. And again, that's die cut, that's more slightly see-through. And then I have the pink enamel-y dots that I've added in. Now, because these go into my embellishment box, due to the fact that I've already chopped these up before I started keeping my embellishments really in their packaging, I am just going to chop that again, because if not, it's just going to get thrown back in anyway. Now, once I had done my add the stash, I did realise while cutting off the branding strips that there is some purple in those papers. So what I did decide to do was bring in some purple bits, and this is pretty much all I have. So I have some enamel dots in sort of purpley colours that match. I have one purple butterfly, and I have some purple twine and a label that's between purple and pink. So yeah, once I'd put this all together, I decided that I would pull out those purple bits as well, because I hardly ever scrapping purple. I find it so hard. However, with this collection, having an odd little element of purple in it, I thought while I don't think I'm going to be doing a full purple layout, I would bring in those little extra bits that I have in the effort of using them up. And then lastly, I have these bigger pieces that I have brought in. So we'll pop in those letter stickers, and I am going to try and pop them underneath just because I want to use the kit bits first. I have these puffy stickers from Freckle Fawn, which I'm surprised I've not done this before, but what I like to do with my sheets is actually staple them onto the card that's on the back so that I don't have to undo them. Pure laziness, but it works for me. And then I have one of these new bits, which is wood buttons. I was going to see if they fit in there, they don't. So in that case, I am going to also stick these to the backing sheet before popping them in there. The Moonstruck cut pieces are already done. Now the labels, I'm actually tempted to chop those up. This isn't normally what I do because I do like to keep them in a sheet. However, there is quite a few of these used up, and I do have a second sheet. So what I think I'm going to do is roughly chop these for the ones that I actually have some left, of which, as I say, I've used quite a few, but I'm going to try and just make this one of my challenges to use on this page, and of course that doesn't fit. And if not, these can always go back into my gold box, and I'll just put them in with my gold embellishments rather than keeping them together. So, plus I can see them there. And then lastly, I also, oh no, not lastly, sorry, nearly lastly, I also have these, which are new stickers. Nice little sort of epoxy hearts. And I will stick those onto the back sheet, and again I'm going to pop these underneath what comes in the kit because it's kit bits that I want to be going to first. And then lastly, I do have these, which a lot of these are already cut up as well. So if I pull this out, I've actually got all sorts of bits stuck in here, so I think I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pop them in there, but the last couple of bits I'm going to chop them out. It may or may not help me to use them. I do tend to chop them out before and use the backing sheet to see if I like them on a layout, because I am that indecisive. And I think these have been up on my wall and tried to be used so much that I am going to try and make this my aim to use these up. And if for any reason I don't use them up with this kit, I think I'm just going to have them sat on my desk until they go. So there we go, that's those. So all I need to put in the bottom with my thickers is another set of alphabets. And apart from that, once I've dug out my papers and messed about, I'll be able to see all my embellishments and get them used. So that's me, quite simply, boxing up my Like Forever kit. And I may or may not have process videos using this, but if not, I will definitely have a layout share once I have got to the end of this kit. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you all again soon.